Okay, long story short, they do. But what comes up is what they celebrate on February 21st, which is like National Breakup Day, I guess. And so on February 21st, if you bring in a text message showing that you've dumped somebody, you get a free order of Dumplings.
Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of the Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot,
make yourself a grasshopper,
and enjoy the ride. Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm fantastic because we just watched Season 3, Episode 15 of The Big Bang Theory, The Large Hadron Collision. For any new listeners out there, I'm Rob, and this is my co-host Ryan. We are Theoretical Nonsense, the podcast that recaps, reviews, and deep dives facts from The Big Bang Theory, which we call IQ points. As a reminder to everyone, I've seen the series multiple times, but this is Ryan's first time watching, so we do our best to do no spoilers. And Ryan has been told he's very similar to Sheldon, so we keep a point tally of how close Ryan is to Sheldon.
And right now we are at 86, not Sheldon, 91, me being Sheldon. I think in the last couple episodes, Sheldon kind of took over and gained quite a few more points than not Sheldon. So I've been feeling close to Sheldon lately, I guess.
Yeah, you're our Shelley, our resident Shelley.
Shelley. For the time being, we don't know.
Sans the PhD. Well, don't forget to a little bit of housekeeping first. Don't forget to email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com and leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. It's been a little lonely over there lately. It's been pretty quiet on the social media end because I just moved into a new house, so I have not been able to post anything. So hopefully, now that I'm settled, I will be able to start posting again.
Yay!
So follow us. And we actually did get a couple new emails.
We got 2 great emails.
Well, the first one was from a little while ago. Sorry, we're getting to this one a little late. We actually do record pretty far ahead just to stay ahead of the game, just because life happens and we want to make sure that we're constantly posting content. So this is an update from Bridget. So she actually had an interesting true crime incident happen to her involving a bus. So we actually called her out to actually give us an update or to keep updating us on this. So she actually wrote to us saying, "Hi, Rob and Ryan. You requested an update on the school bus shooting I witnessed. The suspect is still awaiting trial. She was in jail for a little over a month being held on bail. Here is the story from the city website," and I'll leave that out just so people don't know where Bridget's from.
Sure.
we want to keep that private for you. And it has her booking information, and Bridget says, "If I hear any updates, I will keep you informed. The judicial system takes some time to get through these cases. Thanks for keeping us informed and entertained on all things Big Bang related. Sincerely, Bridget." So thanks for the update,
Bridget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you want to take the email from... I know.
Yeah.
You want to take the email from Jen?
Yeah. Okay, so Jen says, "Hey guys, I discovered your show the other month. I'm not quite caught up. I just started episode 32 and originally thought I would write once I did, but I had to send a message about episode 30. And I have to say, there's more, but I think it's so cool. Somebody's binging our stuff. It's like, wow, we're making content. People are binging it. Yay, I'm happy."
Yeah, I know. It's really exciting.
And she says, "I know it's been a while since the episode, but I had to validate Ryan's pronunciation of the word crown. I too say crown. It's not a local thing. I'm from Cincinnati, and I always get teased about it. I have no speech impediments, and this is the only word I'm mocked for. Ryan, you are not alone. LOL. I'm not alone with it. I don't know why I say it, but
This is just me.
it's just me. Love me for me. Crown. Me and my crowns. Additionally, Rob, you have successfully turned this into a food podcast. I can't remember the episode, but there was lots of talk about the Cheesecake Factory menu. Well, right after work, I went there. Long discussion of brisket. Got brisket after work, and oh my god, the pudding episode. I haven't had it in years, but sure enough, after work, picked up French vanilla and white chocolate pudding. I would have gotten Chinese after the great orange chicken versus tangerine chicken discussion, but I already had dinner plans. I love the show. It's great listen while I work. I'll be a little sad when I'm caught up and can no longer binge it. Jen. I have to
Amazing
say,
email, Jen. Thank you.
I need to find some white chocolate pudding. I don't know if I've seen that, but that sounds pretty good.
I know. I love pudding so much. I really should just keep the fridge stocked on that. And that was a really fun episode. I'm glad people enjoyed it.
And taste testing all of them. Yeah, that was a good project. I enjoyed it too.
Well, we do have some, not to jump ahead, but we actually do have some food things to discuss on this episode too.
Yep.
So looking forward to that. And Jen, you'll have to let us know if if you get yourself some Cholermus. I thought about making it, but like I said, I just moved into my new house and we just got settled. So cooking has been it's been really challenging.
I bet, yeah. Are your pots and pans even unpacked yet?
They are. We made sure we did that, but we have this. We got this nice house with a beautiful island, and we kept telling ourselves, yeah, cooking's gonna be great on that. We have so much space to prep everything, but because we're unpacking, it just turned into the dumping ground for everything.
The island of unwanted things.
Yes. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. Why do I have so many extension cords? Throw it on the island.
Go to the island.
To the island you shall go. I will deal with you later. Yeah, so even every day I clear it out and then it's more stuff just ends up on it. And then it's just every time we get a new order of things, we order some IKEA furniture and stuff like that, it's well, we can't have the small parts everywhere because my baby is just gonna try to eat it. Yeah. So we have to put it higher. So guess what? Ends up on the island. So yeah, let's just say I wanted to make some Cholermus, but I did not.
Maybe someday. Maybe next time we're together we can make it.
Yes, when you come and visit, we have brisket to make, and we'll add ho-lair-moose. I think ho-lair-moose.
Yeah, there's some words in this that I'm gonna fucking butcher. I'm sorry, but
yeah, we're gonna I had to write it down phonetically, just make sure I say it right, and hopefully I can still say it right.
Oh, trust me, I won't. Even if I had it written correctly, I'll still mess it up. I can be looking at it right and know how to say it, and it's gonna come out of my mouth all wrong.
Just like crown.
Crown. Even the other day, it's I'm horrible with names. I don't know why, but one of my coworkers, I'm not going to be too specific, but I know who they are. I work with them daily. And I wave and call them by the wrong name. I'm what the fuck is wrong with me?
Well, how
I played
far
her off
off?
she didn't hear me, but
is her name Stephanie, but you were calling her Julia or something? Is it that bad? Or is it more of a pronunciation thing? Her name is...
Nope, it was way off. It was...
Ouch.
Ouch. My bad. If you're listening and you know who you are, I'm so sorry.
Well, shall we get started?
Yeah.
Should we just start with overall thoughts of this episode?
I think so. I loved it. I was laughing out loud. There was character interaction, and I felt the story-wise went exactly where it needed to go. I wasn't expecting it, but it was how I felt it worked for me.
Yeah, I thought this was a great episode. I always thought to myself that I thought that there was some issues with the timeline with some of the things that they said with like the roommate agreement and Sheldon wanting to go see the Large Hadron Collider since he was 9 years old and stuff like that. Like I kind of like it was always in the back of my mind. I was like, that doesn't make sense. So I
Mm.
genuinely thought that I had some gotcha moments in this episode in the writing, but I was totally
Yeah.
wrong, which I will address
Oh.
later on. I was wrong, and I will admit it.
Can't always be right.
No, this is my podcast, and I am always right.
I'm right. Even when I'm wrong, I'm right.
But there is one huge plot hole that I will mention that I will still stand by that it is a major plot hole.
Ooh, I don't think I caught it.
I will I'll get into it. I'll let you know. So that means if you're listening, you have to stick around.
Stick around, figure it out.
Yep. Well, this is season 3, episode 15, The Large Hadron Collision, aired February 8th, 2010, written by Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and teleplay by Lee Aronson. Directed, as always, by Mark Sandrowski. Opening scene, we're in the cafeteria, and Howard is on the phone with Bernadette, trying to do that cutesy thing where you tell each other to hang up first. And Bernadette just hangs up on him. And I love that.
Hang up first.
And and a fakey soda alert. There's a soda that was called Zun, but it totally ripped off the 7-Up logo.
Oh.
So I did notice that. I was like, it looks like a 7-Up, but it doesn't look like a 7-Up at the same time.
You know, I know what you're talking about. I saw it, but just kind of assumed, and like it was in the back burner of my mind. I just assumed, so I didn't take a closer look, but it looked kind of like 7-Up. So I'm like, it must be a 7-Up.
Yeah, I looked into it, and apparently it's just a fakey one that they do, just because, like, like copyright things. But they actually use the exact same cans in Parks and Rec.
No shit.
Yeah. Well, Raj calls out Howard if he really needs to do all that lovey-dovey stuff. And then Sheldon chimes in and says that he has to, due to the economic concept known as positional goods, in which an object is only valued by the possessor because it is not possessed by others. The term was coined in 1976 by economist Fred Hirsch to replace the more colloquial but less precise Neener-Neener. And I thought about doing an IQ point on this, but I didn't.
I looked into some stuff, and you can count it as an IQ point or not. I just want to go through it because I thought some of this was interesting. This goes into a lot of economic philosophy that I don't understand. It's not something I've ever really studied, or maybe I did a little bit in college and just forgot about it. But it's exactly like he says, that there are goods in the world that are praised based upon social value, like how we see them and how we perceive them. And I found on Wikipedia that it was coined by Hirsch in his article or book, Social Limits of Growth in 1977. And I'm going to get back to Hirsch in a bit because I found out something interesting about him that kind of scares me. But it is when a good is valued by how it's distributed, not the rarity and availability. So it's not necessarily supply and demand. It's, I think somebody mentioned diamonds, that diamonds are perceived as valuable, and there's a whole lot more of them, but they're kind of being controlled by diamond, not manufacturers, but diamond
suppliers.
agencies. But yeah. And so they're worth a lot more than, or they go for a lot more than they actually are. And technically I found that this, he goes into more depth on it, that it can be broken up into different categories. Not all goods are the same in terms of positional goods, because some can be impacted by fixed amounts like land usage and housing. Like apparently if there is a limited supply of it, people can see the value as being worth more than it actually is, and they seek it. Like I'm thinking houses, housing markets, that in a good market, or I mean strong market where people are buying, they're paying a lot more for houses than the houses are actually worth because they perceive them as limited. But it can also be impacted by relative positions and status. So like if somebody's wearing a certain dress to a movie release, and then everybody wants that dress type, or if it's I don't know, Beanie Babies or Tickle Me Elmos, that suddenly people see that as like, oh, the rich people have it, or somebody famous has it, I want it too, and suddenly everybody wants it, and it's worth a lot more. I think the main thing that Wikipedia says is that to discuss this claim for positional economy, all aspects of goods, services, work positions, and other social relationships are either one, scarce in some absolute or socially imposed sense, or two, subject to congestion and crowding through more extensive use. So basically, Wikipedia tries to define that or uses that quote as the definition of positional goods, if you're interested in that. But going back, what I found interesting about Hirsch, and I saw this starting off on Wikipedia, he was born July 6th, 1931, and he died on January 10th, 1978. He was like only 40 some years old, 48 years old, 47, 48. And apparently he died of, and I found this on the University degli Studi di Ferrara, basically an Italian university, University of Ferrara, had a page about him, but he died of motor neuron disease, which is a disease that causes paralysis. So, I'm looking at this, I'm like, man, he helped define how we see goods in the economy, and he was like in his late 40s. What have I done with my life, right? So I have like 8 years to come up with some bold term that nobody has ever thought of before and change the way we see the economy.
We have an amazing podcast. Hello.
You're right. Goddamn.
We are impacting the world.
We're changing things.
He had a book and historical value, but we have a podcast.
We got a podcast. So that's all I have on that one. If you learned something good, if not, well, I'm sorry.
Well, Howard defends himself. He says his happiness is not dependent on his friend being miserable and alone. But that's just a perk. And enter Leonard, and he wants to know what everyone's plan is for Valentine's Day. And Howard gets super excited with the topic, and he's pulling out all the stops. He says that there's a $39.95 lovers special at P.F. Chang's. Egg rolls, dumplings, bottomless walk, and you get your picture taken on the big marble horse out front. What girl wouldn't love that? And he looked so pleased with himself as he was telling this plan. I loved it. I loved the enthusiasm. And then Sheldon's at all? Not P.F. Chang's, but I did look into what Sheldon is about to say.
I looked into P.F. Chang's.
Oh, okay.
I want to know, did they actually have a deal? So I can go into it if you want me to.
I would love that.
All right. So I was curious, like, does P.F. Chang's actually have Valentine's Day specials? And what really made me laugh is if you type in P.F. Chang's Valentine's Day, okay, long story short, they do. But what comes up is what they celebrate on February 21st, which is like National Breakup Day, I guess. And so on February 21st, if you bring in a text message showing that you've dumped somebody, you get a free order of dumplings. I don't know what to do with that information, but I feel like it's important.
I feel like it should be the opposite way. I feel like you should get the free dumplings if you were the dumpy, not the dumper.
I feel
you
like
shouldn't
the dumper's the jerk, so they don't need dumplings.
Well, I mean, they're not necessarily a jerk because they're probably just getting out of a relationship that they don't want to be in. But at the same time, it's like, why aren't you not rewarding, but like consoling the
yeah,
dumpy.
Consoling.
I just got dumped. Can I get some dumplings?
I need some
please?
dumplings. Although I'm guessing if you show them a text message of anything, they'll probably give you the free dumplings. Like, it's my dog. She dumped me. Like, okay, here's some dumplings.
That would actually be very tragic if they jumped you and found a new owner.
Sorry, Ryan. I got to find a new owner. This is just not
Sorry,
working out.
it's not me. It's you.
It's not me. It's you. Arf. Bark, bark. All right,
Bark,
so
bark,
that was the
bark, bark.
that was the first thing I found. Doing a little bit more research, I found in 2024 this year, Dilltown.com advertised PF Chang's menu, saying that starting at $55, you could get an order for two on Valentine's Day at select locations only, but that really didn't go into much detail. Doing a little bit more research, I found that according to the Walden Galleria in New York City, in 2020, they had a deal for two on Valentine's Day for $75. You could get, basically, it was a 3-course menu. Starter course could have chicken lettuce wraps, tempura calamari and veggies, or kung pao dragon roll for the starter. The entree could be either the Korean, how do you pronounce it, bulgogi?
Bulgogi.
Bulgogi, there we
Steak
go.
bulgogi.
Yeah. The Mongolian beef, the oolong Chilean sea bass, or salt and pepper prawns. And then for dessert, you could have the Great Wall of Chocolate or New York style cheesecake. And you also got 2 glasses of sparkling wine, which you could upgrade the bottle, maybe upgrade to the bottle. It didn't have a lot of specifics, for an extra $20. So that was 2020. And I did more research going back, and this was like deep diving because the internet does not like to give you stuff from longer ago. But according to what's it? San Diego Union Tribune.com, PF Chang's Chinese Bistro, man, I forget when this was. I believe this was 2010, but I didn't write down the date, but it was further ago. It was long before 2020. It said the restaurant chain will have a Chang's for two special prefix menu on Valentine's Day for $39.95 per couple. Menu options include egg drop soup, Chang's chicken lettuce wraps, crab wontons, kung pao chicken or shrimp, orange peel chicken, beef or shrimp, and a choice of mini desserts. Go to pfchangs.com for more information. So anyways, I feel like that this was probably on the right track, $39.95 in 2010 for that per couple. Maybe not all the same things were on the menu as he listed, but they were having some sort of special, and they've kind of been known to have specials. You just have to check to make sure that your local PF Chang's is doing something, because they might do something different, or they might do nothing at all. They might just give you dumplings. Who knows?
Yeah. Only if you got dumped, though.
Only if you got dumped. Or if you did the dumping.
Yep.
I took a big dump today. Can I get some dumplings?
Any way to get some dumplings on my dump day?
I got a text message. Don't show me that.
No, just take the dumplings and go.
Oh, God. All right, so that's all I got on PF Chang's, but I enjoyed that deep dive.
Awesome. Continuing the theme of Foodcast.
Yeah.
Well, Sheldon chimes in and says that given that Saint Valentine was a third century Roman priest who was stoned and beheaded, wouldn't a more appropriate celebration of the evening be taking one's steady gal to witness a brutal murder? So I did a little bit of research on this one. I researched who is Saint Valentine and what are the origins of Valentine's Day. Did you do this one too?
I didn't. I've learned some about this in my studies of Christmas and stuff, so I know a little bit about it, but
it's very similar. It's basically the celebration in that time period was a pagan holiday around like springtime. So then the Christians were like, nah, fuck that.
You can't have anything of your own.
We're taking it. So now. In a nutshell, that's kind of what happened. So it's very similar to like what happened with Christmas and everything else.
I can't remember.
But
I heard more about it, but I remember I'll let you take it, but I remember some details of it and executions and fun stuff like that.
Yes, it is a time of love, but a time of brutal murder.
Yes, love and murder.
Well, why is Valentine's Day a day for love? And I found this on Britannica.com, History.com, and a little sprinkling of Wikipedia to fill in some of the blanks. All right, so who is Saint Valentine and why is February 14th a day of love? The true origins are clouded in mystery, but it has been suggested that the origins of Valentine's Day stem from the Roman festival of Lupercalia, held in mid February and celebrates the coming of spring, and included fertility rites and the pairing off of women with men by lottery.
Oh yeah. That
All
sounds
right,
bad, but you know
that
what they're
sounds like a much better lottery.
doing. Yeah.
Well, a quick side quest on details of Lupercalia. This was an ancient Roman festival under Roman priests called Luperci. Luperci. I tried looking into like the pronunciation, but it did not. I couldn't find it, so I'm going to call it. I'm going to say Luperci. And
I
lupus
second you.
is
I support
Latin.
your decision.
Thank you. Lupus is Latin for wolf. There is a suggested connection to the ancient deity who protected herds from wolves, and with the legendary she-wolf who nursed Romulus and Remus. As a fertility rite, the festival is also associated with the god Faunus. Each Lupercalia began with the sacrifice by the Luperci of goats and a dog, after which the two Luperci were led to the altar. Their foreheads were touched with a bloody knife, and the blood was wiped off with the wool dipped in milk. The ritual required that the two young men laugh, and the sacrificial feast followed, after which the Luperci cut thongs from the skins of the sacrificial animals and ran in two bands around the Palatine Hill, striking with the thongs at any woman who came near them. A blow from the thong was supposed to render a woman fertile. So the women actually welcomed that slap as it meant that they would become more fertile.
Kinky.
Yeah. Later in the day, according to legend, all the young women in the city would place their names in a big urn. The city's bachelors would each choose a name and become paired for the year with with his chosen woman, and these matches often ended in marriage.
Hmm.
So now that we have a little bit of background info on Lupercalia, we can go back to our main quest, Saint Valentine.
I was gonna say that lottery sounds a lot better than online dating.
Yes. You have a year.
Goddamn name out of
I know. Yeah,
and
and you have a year to figure out if you hate each other or not. It's not after the appetizer course.
Right? Yeah. Check, please.
Well, onward to Saint Valentine, which is even more clouded in mystery, because there are three different saints named Valentine that this day could be about. And Sheldon could have been referring to any of them, since they all end pretty tragically. So lots of beheadings in our history. The first legend contends that Valentine was a priest who served during the 3rd century in Rome, when Emperor Claudius II decided that single men made better soldiers than those with wives and families. He outlawed marriage for young men. Valentine, realizing the injustice of the decree, defied Claudius and continued to perform marriages for young lovers in secret. When Valentine's actions were discovered, Claudius ordered that he be put to death. Others insist that it was Saint Valentine of Terni, which is a city in Italy. He was a bishop who was possibly the true namesake of the holiday, and he was also beheaded by Claudius II outside of Rome for his works of converting others into Christianity. The third and last legend doesn't specify which Valentine this is, but the story goes that this Valentine may have been killed for attempting to help Christians escape harsh Roman prisons, where they were often beaten and tortured. The imprisoned Valentine sent the first, in quote, Valentine greeting himself after he fell in love with a young girl, possibly his jailer's daughter, who visited him during his confinement. Before his death, it is alleged that he wrote her a letter signed "From Your Valentine," an expression that is still in use today.
Be my Valentine stuff.
Yeah, yep. Well, that's all great. So now that we know who Valentine is, oh, sort of, how did it turn into what it is today? As we mentioned in our side quest, Lupercalia was the main festival of love and fertility, but as we said earlier, it was deemed unchristian at the end of the 5th century. It was Pope Gelasius that deemed February 14th as Valentine's Day as a way to honor the martyr. During the Middle Ages, it was commonly believed in France and England that February 14th was the beginning of birds' mating season, which added to the idea that Valentine's Day should be a day for romance. The first written documentation of St. Valentine's Day as a day of romantic celebration was from English poet Geoffrey Chaucer in his 1375 poem Parliament of Fowls, writing, "For this was sent on St. Valentine's Day, when every fowl cometh there to choose his mate." Valentine greetings were popular as far back as the Middle Ages, though written Valentines didn't begin to appear until after 1400. The oldest known Valentine greeting still in existence today was a poem written in 1415 by Charles, Duke of Orleans, to his wife while he was imprisoned in the Tower of London following his capture at the Battle of Agincourt. Valentine's Day wasn't popularized until the 17th century, and it wasn't until the 18th century where gift giving really ramped up. And that's Valentine's Day.
So when they say birds and the bees, they actually mean birds mating.
Yep. I don't know why bees, though.
I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out in another episode.
Well, anything else to add on Valentine's Day?
No, I was just going to say that the stories I heard were a mix between the first one, who the guy marrying people when they weren't supposed to be married because of war, right? And the last one where he was signing his letters, "Your Valentine," that started sending Valentine's Day greeting cards to people. And again, I don't know how accurate or realistic that was, but those were the two that I had heard and connected with Christianity taking over Valentine's Day.
Yep. But yeah, it's kind of crazy that they just named it, like the Pope was like, let's just honor this person on this day. And then it just happened to be around the time of spring where the birds are coming, where all of a sudden it's about romance.
Everything fell into place. And babies were made.
That is what I decide.
Go out and have a romantic evening and think of me.
The birds and not the bees.
Not the bees.
Well, Raj chimes in of what his Valentine's Day plans are, and he says that he's going to spend Valentine's Day eating a rotisserie chicken over the sink like an animal. And honestly, that doesn't sound so bad.
Like Raj.
Is that what you? Because that's what you did, or
I have done that before. I'm not sure if it was on Valentine's Day, but it was on some sort of special day.
I feel like it's every single guy who does that. I did that all the time. Shit, I still do that.
Like an animal. like feral, like he ripped
That's
that
mine.
leg off, and you're like,
Yeah.
and suddenly you have grease all over your chin, and you're like, what have I become?
What am I? Just staring at yourself in the mirror too, like, I hate myself.
As I grab another fistful of chicken. Oh well.
Well, I will say, like, when I was listening to him talk about his plans every time, like, I think to myself, like, he'll kind of go into it, like, how he turns it into, like, a me day. But that's always what I did when I was single. I for like I was actually single for a really long time before I met my wife, and every year I kind of just turned it into like a celebration. I would buy a nice bottle of whiskey, I'd get a cigar, and I'd fire off a steak, and I kind of just have like a nice meal to myself, and it was something I always really enjoyed.
And then I'd take a leather strap and whip myself into fertility.
Yeah. No, it was a blood-soaked thong.
Yeah. Who's my Valentine? Who's my Valentine? I am.
I am. And now I'm more fertile.
Yes. Wow.
Oh God. If we're going to lose all of our listeners, it's now.
If they made it up to this point, we did good.
Yeah. Yeah, we're on episode 57. So if you're still listening, we're doing something right.
But thank you. We appreciate
Thanks.
it. Thanks.
Well, Leonard tries to fish and to get them to ask him about his plans, but it's funny because nobody is interested. They're like, whatever. And then Raj just is like, oh, we know you're gonna have sex with Penny. It's okay. You can tell me about it. I don't mind hearing about your sex life. And then he gestures over to Howard. It's his. That bugs me.
It's his that bugs me.
And we learn that Leonard is filling in for Nobel Prize winning Dr. Norton to go to CERN in Switzerland to attend a conference.
I looked this up, and apparently Professor Norton is not like an actual character from what I know. Like, he's never in the show.
Not that I know of.
They talk about him away like I thought maybe I should know who he was, but like it's only really mentioned in this episode.
Yeah. Just a throwaway character, just to kind of move the story along.
But his story of they're like, oh, he hurt his back. I heard he hurt it rock climbing, and then somebody else like, oh, I heard he hurt it climbing on his girlfriend, the weather girl.
The big boot weather girl.
Yeah.
So he was mountain climbing.
I'm like, wow, that's a detail. I'm like, I feel like I should know who this guy is. He's got a guest star. He never does, so
nope. Well, what is a super collider? I won't get into that because we actually already broke that down in our episode 15, season 1, episode 15, the pork chop indeterminacy. But I did a little bit of research on CERN, since we haven't actually talked about CERN specifically. We've mentioned CERN before, but a little background information. It is the European Organization for Nuclear Research, but its abbreviation comes from the French pronunciation. Conseil Européen pour la Recherche Nucléaire. CERN. It was established in 1954, and it's the home of the Large Hadron Collider. And it was built between 1998 and 2008. That's it. Just a little background information on that.
Yeah, I was going to add that. Have you watched any of the show Evil?
No.
It's not going anywhere really, but I don't know. It's wrapping up, but it's kind of like an X-Files, or set up like an X-Files, where there's a scientist, a psychologist, and a priest. They walk into a bar.
Bar. Yeah.
They go around and investigate like unnatural occurrences, trying to figure out like, is this a satanic presence? Is it like everybody's just having mental issues, or is there science explanation trying to figure everything out? And some of the issues like become open ended, like uh yeah, like one of them, there's like an Alexa machine robot AI thing that's like changing this guy's office temperatures, and they find out somebody hacked it and make it seem like it was possessed, but then like a guy's playing with it and it may actually be possessed as well. But in one of the recent episodes, they go to a giant collider in the U.S. I don't know if it was made up or fictional or what, but I think it was fictional. But apparently, they're investigating because there's supposed to be satanic cults like doing sacrifices there, and in one scene, like something goes horribly wrong, and the scientist like gets hit with a beam of light right in the forehead, and like so he's spending the rest of the season wondering like, did a demon just like impregnate his brain or something? But he keeps seeing things, and he thinks he sees like a demon on the outside of his vision, like talking to him. He's like, no, this is right. So, but yeah, them talking about the collider made me think of that episode where he's like standing there,
because that's exactly how a super collider works.
right? Gotcha.
You have a demon in your head now. Well, Sheldon is so excited that he just leaves to go pack for the trip, and everybody is confused. They ask, "Why aren't you taking Penny?" And Leonard is very logical and very straightforward. "I am taking Penny." And Raj says, "Well, that's going to be awkward for you later."
I love Raj in this episode.
Yeah. So we have the theme music, and now we're on to the first scene. We're in Sheldon's room and he's packing. Leonard comes in to break the news to him that he's taking Penny, not him. And Sheldon just doesn't get it at all. He says that Penny has no interest in subatomic particle research.
And I actually get 1 point for being like Sheldon here, because I fucking adore ski caps. He when he comes in, he's like, which ski cap would look better on me? And I have several ski caps, and I love ski caps. I admire other people's ski caps. I love them. So 1 point for being like Sheldon there.
All right. Neck and neck this episode.
Right?
Well, Sheldon is getting more upset, and he says that he has dreamed of going to see the Large Hadron Collider since he was 9 years old. But Leonard says that he's wanted to spend Valentine's Day with the girls since he was 6. So I sympathize with that.
Me too.
And Sheldon just says, well, that's no dream for a scientist. And this is where I thought the first gotcha moment was. I was thinking about this. I was like, wait, if the Large Hadron Collider first started construction in 1998, like, I know it takes time to plan things. I know, like, this is a huge undertaking, but it's like, but if he was 9 years old and he knew about it, just didn't make sense that he knew about it.
Yeah.
So I looked into what Sheldon's birthday was, because it's on like the Big Bang Theory fandom.
Yeah.
According to that, his birth date is February 26, 1980. So Sheldon would be 9 in 1989, which is 9 years before construction even started. I honestly didn't think that planning would go back that far, or it would take that much time just to even like conceptualize it.
Yeah.
But I was totally wrong. So shame on me.
Damn you,
And
Rob.
I actually thought,
damn you.
I know. I am man enough to admit my faults, which I have none.
I have none.
Well, according to home.cern.com, so the actual CERN website, thoughts of upgrading the previous super collider at CERN, the LEP, or Large Electron Positron Collider, went back as far as the early 1980s, as this accelerator was not even functioning at that point. And it was December 1994 when the CERN Council voted to approve the construction of the Large of the Large Hadron Collider. And in October of 1995, the technical design report was published. So it turns out the timeline is correct. News of the plans of the Large Hadron Collider would have been around in 1989 when Sheldon was 9 years old. So obviously Sheldon was just very up to date with science news and events.
And that makes sense given his past, because he was making things that he like turned his neighbor's dog into jelly or something, right? Like he knew about science.
Yeah, he was really into it at an early age, so it only makes sense that he was up to date with the events of the science world. And according to CERN, they've actually been talking about it since the early 80s. So
wow.
So it makes sense.
It does make sense.
So I rescind my gotcha.
You're wrong, Rob, and you're off the podcast. This is Ryan's show now. Because I'm never wrong.
Welcome to the Ryan Show. Well, I will at this point, because of the conversation that Leonard and Sheldon were having, I will say this is the big plot hole that I can't not see this, because it's like the solution to their problem is so simple. So Leonard is being given this opportunity to go to Switzerland and actually go to the conference at CERN. He gets to invite one person. Okay, cool. He invites Penny. So that means airfare and hotel is covered. But why would he take her as a guest to CERN? Because that's like the whole point, is you have a guest to bring to CERN. So Sheldon, you have money. Why don't you just buy your own plane ticket, pay for your own hotel, and you will be my guest at CERN? While Penny is off chilling, grabbing drinks, hanging out by the fire, going skiing on her own. It's like, why didn't they just do that?
I thought about that, and I assumed, another hotel room and plane tickets to Switzerland was more than most people
probably booked.
have, but yeah.
But we've established that he has a ton of money.
Yeah, that he's giving it to Penny because money is no you.
That was just the cash that he had.
Yeah.
It's like he has he that's just cash on hand. Well, not to get into spoilers, but we will learn later on that he's not super into banks, but he does have a ton of money.
And for something like that, I feel like if he had the invite, and like you said, Penny's not going to be the invited person on the tour. Sheldon could scrounge up enough money to go. You're absolutely right. And honestly, I had another issue later on in the episode, and I forgot until we just started talking about airplanes. But it would be impossible to switch tickets like they do. Because Sheldon wants to go, but it's in Penny's name. And then switching to Sheldon, you can't switch names on plane tickets. You'd have to buy a new one.
So I guess the only way that he wouldn't go is that there literally is no flight out there.
Yeah.
So that potentially could be it.
But that's not what they say, and I didn't get the impression that's the case, so I don't know.
So I don't know. That just thinking about that, I was like, why don't they just do that? He could still have his romantic Valentine's Day with Penny, but then even going on the tour, I feel like even though Sheldon is annoying, I feel like it would be fun to go on the tour with him, because when you're doing something, you want to share that experience with somebody that actually appreciates it.
Yeah, appreciates and respects it, definitely.
Yeah.
Like going to breweries with Kelsey, she hates beer, and I'm like, so when I start talking about the brewing stuff and the beer taste and the different types of beers, she zones out
she says, that's not shut up, Ryan. I'm taking your podcast now.
This is my podcast. It's the Kelsey Show. I tell you, there's no food or beer on that podcast, so it's a sad day for everybody.
You don't want that to happen.
Nobody wants that. I don't think Kelsey even wants that.
Well, that was my plot hole. But aside that, if you take that out of the equation, I still love this episode.
Yeah, that's a fair one. That's a fair one.
Yeah. Well, now we're on to the next scene, and Leonard is giving Penny clues to what they'll be doing for Valentine's Day. And he brings over a tray of items. They have milk chocolate, Swiss cheese, fondue. And her first guess is, oh, my lactose intolerant boyfriend is going to eat all this, and then I'm going to climb on his back and rocket to the moon. And then Leonard says no, but then he keeps dropping the word Swiss. It involves air travel, and he has Swiss cheese with a Swiss Army knife, and then she could wash it down with a cup of Swiss Miss instant cocoa. And I thought that this is actually a really cute way to like tell somebody like what their plans are.
I think it's adorable. I did an IQ point here because I had no idea fondue was Swiss.
Ooh, more food.
Where I thought it came from, but Switzerland would not have been my guess. Like if you give me 4 answers, France, Brazil, I probably would have said Brazil. Like I had no idea. So I did some research on this, and according to alpenwild.com, fondue comes from the French word fondre, Fondre, but it's probably pronounced differently. But it does have its origins in 18th century Switzerland. Fondue usually contains a cheese of some sort, wine, and garlic, but can contain other spices and herbs. No specific cheese is required, but I'm going to butcher these words too. Gruyere, Emmentaler, and raclette, Raclette, are the common ones to use. And we all know, well, I did know what fondue is. It's cheese served in an earthenware pot called a Coquelin, Caquelin. Man, this is tough for me. Coquelin, which apparently is wide.
It's pronounced
shallow.
Bottle.
It's in a bottle. And it's not cheese,
Idiot.
It's beer.
It's a beer cheese.
Beer cheese. There you go. And that's why we have a podcast. It's wide and shallow because it heats evenly and the earthenware retains the heat to keep up the cheese. And I did find out that a few things about it. Apparently the cheese on the bottom, like as you dip and eat it, the cheese on the bottom like kind of starts to crust up, and that's actually considered a delicacy, and you chip away it, and like you're supposed to enjoy that at the end of the meal as like the specialty of the finale of the meal. And it's called Religies, Ligieuse. Man, that's tough for me. Religies, but considered a delicacy. Apparently, fondue started with families in Switzerland who, in the winter months, had to stretch their resources. And what they often had was bread that was really, really stale because it's getting to the end of the winter or through the winter. And then they have cheese. And so they found that they could heat the cheese up and soak the bread in the cheese to soften it up. And they would have a warm meal with making the bread more delectable, more edible, and they would also have a good like family experience where they're all around the meal, so it kind of was like a win-win-win, and it's still considered technically a winter meal, and if you eat it in the summer, that's like a good giveaway that you're a tourist and you don't really know what you're doing. And I don't know if it's like what's a good warm American meal that we only eat in the winter. I'm thinking like stews and soups and stuff. Like I guess we can eat them in the summer, but like how often do you make it like a hearty, thick meat and potato stew? Like it's more of a winter thing.
I was gonna say chili, but I feel like chili is year round, especially with most. Yeah.
I was thinking chili too, but like I'm like maybe chili's like picking up.
Like cook-offs happen in the summertime, so it's definitely a year round. So not that. I guess like pot roast.
Pot roast, lentils. Do you have lentils? Like, I only ever have lentils in the winter months.
I haven't had lentils in a long time.
My dad makes lentils. I've never
The
made them
winter of my
so.
past.
Winter of your past. But you did eat it in the winter. Ha!
Yeah. Facts.
And apparently, like, maybe part of the reason I was confused about this is because it was first written about in French and Belgian cookbooks. But it did call for the use of Gruyere, the Swiss cheese. So technically, Switzerland gets the credits for it. But technically, French and Belgian cookbooks wrote about it first. So maybe there was some confusion there. And also the popularity of this, like, even though it started in the 18th century, in the 1930s, the Swiss Cheese Union, and I just imagine like these cheese guys dressed in like suits and cheese hats, like going around assassinating people who don't like cheese. But apparently they had a campaign for cheese, and they really pushed how great fondue was to help sell cheese. And then apparently after World War II, they continued the marketing to suggest that fondue was a symbol of unity and national identity in Switzerland. So it became like a marketing agency or marketing campaign that grew to other places. Apparently, it wasn't introduced in America until the New York World's Fair in 1964. So other parts of the world had it quite a lot longer before us, and the history is kind of blurred with the French getting in cookbooks. But apparently, it is Swiss, and the Swiss Cheese Union is credited heavily for it being so popular as it is today. With that all said, I've never had fondue.
Really? Even like during like the really trendy time in the early 2000s, like with the melting pot?
Never had it. I've had in fact, we went to a place the other night, and when I was in Japan, I had it, but they was it in Japanese? It's shabu shabu, and I always heard it was splash splash, but the restaurant we went to is called Swish Swish. But you are given like a hot pot with broth and like raw meat and stuff, and you pick it up and you swish it around in your broth, and it cooks it because it's boiling. But I've never done it with cheese and fondue.
Yeah, hot pot is amazing. I love it so much, especially with the spicy broth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a plate
God.
of lamb, and Kelsey hates lamb, but I love it, and it was all for me. And it's like $35, all you can eat. And after one plate, I'm like, I'm full, but I want more lamb. And put it in there, get spicy, get some tofu in there, and some vegetables, bok choy.
I miss Washington, and like you can't get that kind of stuff in Pennsylvania.
That's
like you describe this to people, and they're just like, "What?
Hot?
What's
hot?
happening?" So you cook it yourself?
You cook? How cook? What? Chopsticks? What?
Well, I've had fondue a couple of times, and it's okay.
It's okay.
I like cheese. I like wine. I like garlic. But when you put them together, maybe it was just the wrong like ratio that we had. I went to Melting Pot a couple times, and it was kind of like it's a little too winey for me.
I was gonna say I poured a bottle of wine in, threw a cheese stick in, and it tasted like wine.
And I threw in some Velveeta and some garlic. I didn't have garlic, but I had Funyuns. Does that count?
And then I used more Funyuns to dip because I didn't have bread. So.
Yeah, I don't know what went wrong.
What could have been wrong with this scenario?
But yeah, it's not for me, and it's funny because every time I'm trying to like when I first started dating my wife, I feel like I offered to go there a few times just because it's like Melting Pot is known as like the romantic date spot and everything because it's more intimate. It's like a one of those romantic settings and atmospheres, and then like you're sharing the bowl and everything, so but then she was always just like, no, fuck that.
That's what I have. I think I've told you about this, but in my pantry I have a nabe, I believe that's what it's called, but it's like a Japanese hot pot, and you're supposed to. I mean, it's partially for the shabu shabu, but you can use it for udon or whatever. But it's like a hot pot that you put on the center of your table, and I got it in Japan when I was married, and in the divorce, like that was the one thing I wanted, and I remember like good memories of sitting around this with friends. But as soon as I got it after the divorce, I don't think I've used it once. It's been like what 15 years. I'm like,
You're just spiteful. It's like you can't have it.
yeah,
That's mine.
But in my head, I was like, I was gonna have all these memories of new friends, and us all like, oh, we're dipping our stuff. It's hot pot time. But apparently,
Well, why didn't you? You just kind of forgot about it?
I think so, and all the instructions are in Japanese, so I kind of forgot how to use it.
Oh, okay.
I think I could figure it out. And after the meal we had the other day at the restaurant, swish swish, I'm like, I think I can figure it out. We just got to make it work and have food that Kelsey has so many allergies that she's allergic to dairy, so I couldn't do cheese in it. But I could do some sort of good spicy broth. And
I guess you could try a vegan cheese. That would even. Those notoriously don't melt very well.
And that's what I was going to say. They don't melt. They kind of burn, and they keep the same stage.
Actually, there is this really great vegan, in quote, cheddar cheese that I used to make during vegan days at work. So it's with cashews. So you basically make that like a cashew milk.
Uh-huh.
So you have you soak the cashews, in like for like a day, and then you blend it so it kind of turns to like that milky cream. And then the key ingredient is nutritional yeast. So like you add like your onion, like your sauteed onions and garlic and some other stuff, but then you add the nutritional yeast because it's kind of like that cheesy kind of parmesan-y kind of taste. You could do something like that as like a fondue.
That could work.
Yeah.
I never thought about making my own cheese, non-dairy cheese.
Yeah, nutritional yeast.
And I do have nutritional yeast, so I started getting purple carrot. I had that for a while, which is like a vegan dinner supplier or whatever. And they had a lot of good stuff, but they introduced me to ingredients like I never understood, like nutritional yeast. Like I didn't really know that was a thing. I thought the only yeast I ever used was making bread and throwing it into beer. So, but it tastes good and it adds, so that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you could have that fondue night.
Yeah. Romantic.
You're welcome.
Oh, we'll try it out next Valentine's Day.
See you next year.
I allow for romance.
Kelsey, I got plans for you next year.
Next year. Save yourself a seat at the table, babe.
Yeah. You're resi now. I'm on open table. Anything else on fondue?
That's all I got on fondue.
Well, Penny is trying to guess everything, and she thinks it's Disneyland to ride the Matterhorn and gets super excited. And then Leonard just is like, there's no air travel in that. And then she gets super excited. It's like, oh my God, you're taking me to Disney World.
To ride the Matterhorn.
Well, he says no and wants her to keep guessing. And then she's kind of just over it. And she's like, okay, I'm over it. So Leonard just gives her the good news. And they're going skiing in Switzerland. And she gets super excited. And then Sheldon enters as the buzzkill. And he says, you might want to hold off lighting your Rabelechtli. All right.
Rabelechtli.
Rabelechtli. And Sheldon's, yeah.
And I have an IQ point on that too, so I'm going to butcher that many times.
Yes. This was a fun one.
Yeah.
He says that a Rabelechtli means turnip light and refers to a traditional lantern hand carved from a root vegetable and used to celebrate certain Swiss festivals, which you will not be celebrating because A, these festivals occur in the fall, and B, you will not be going to Switzerland. I love the confidence in him. But all right, what you got on Rabelechtlis?
You want to go first? I took the last one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I found this on znuni.com and swissfamilyfun.com and sprinkled in a little bit more Wikipedia just to fill in some blanks. And everything that Sheldon said is true. Even the part about Penny not going to Switzerland.
Damn, you're right.
Rabelechtlis translate to little turnip light. Rabe means turnip, and Lichtli means little light. But another site that I found said that it translates to turnip party, which I'm guessing is just the nickname for this celebration.
Yeah.
This usually occurs. This is usually a Christmas celebration in Switzerland, and the parade will fall close to St. Martin's Day, which is approximately November 10th, as the date changes each year. The turnip lanterns represent the warmth of home during the cold winter months. St. Martin's Day, or Martinstag, is a religious observance in Germany that is particularly popular with children. It is dedicated to St. Martin of Tours and celebrates modesty and altruism, both values commonly associated with the saint. Martin of Tours, who died in 397, was a Roman soldier who was baptized as an adult and became a bishop in Gaul. He is best known for the tale whereby he cut his cloak in half with his sword to give half to a beggar who was dressed only in rags in the depth of winter. That night Martin had a vision of Jesus wearing the half cloak. Well, the turnip lantern itself is kind of like a jack-o'-lantern, but you don't cut all the way through. You take a large turnip, and when I looked this up, those lanterns are huge. They grow them big out there.
Those are big turnips.
Like the turnips in America do not get that big, which is crazy because everything's bigger in America.
Yeah. Or so we say. We've been lied to all our lives.
All our lives. Well, you cut off the lid, and then you carve out the innards, and then you carve into the skin just enough so it becomes translucent. And then carve any decorative pattern that you'd like, and then stick a candle in it. And it sounds like fun. I should do this.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, I've done a squash lantern, and then I've also done an apple lantern too, where I actually took the time to carve into like an apple.
Like
that was always fun.
Like a pipe. I'm thinking like a little bong with an apple, but
oh, shit. I know it sounds like that, but it was not a pipe.
Rob,
I swear. I don't know what that even is. What is a pipe?
What is an apple?
Well, that's what I had on Rabelechtli. What did you have anything else?
I have some additional stuff that was mostly the same, but I found some, not I could do read whole books on this. I find it so fascinating. I love this discussion. But I did zununi.com and also the scribblings of Alex Adams blog online. But it is definitely a Swiss-German thing. But what I found interesting is technically, I mean, you mentioned it, but they carve turnips like jack-o'-lanterns, but technically pre-discovery of the Americas and before pumpkins were brought over, turnips were used largely for jack-o'-lanterns in England. And that the original story, as far as I know, where Old Scratch, right? The devil makes a deal with the blacksmith or something where he's going to live forever, and he tricks the devil, but the devil says, okay, you can live forever, but you can only live life as an ember. And the notion is this ember jumps around and possesses jack-o'-lanterns. And again, they started with turnips. So this turnip thing is a lot larger than just one country, one culture. Again, England and America started doing it with pumpkins just because they were easier and they were found. But turnips were like apparently the original goat, greatest of all times, right? But the big thing here is, like you said, these aren't being carved for Halloween. Although St. Martin's Day was considered Old Halloween, I saw that mentioned. This is more about the celebration of like the end of harvest and the beginning of winter. And you said it's like it's a Christmas holiday, and we would think of this as kind of an early Christmas. Although I hear people refer to Thanksgiving as like mini Christmas, it is kind of around the same time as Thanksgiving, and these turnips are carved and scraped out more like Christmas decorations, and they do like Christmas designs like diamonds and sparkly things, and then they have like huge parades. And if you're listening, look up these parades because they have floats, and the one I was watching had like spiders and turtles and people's faces, like huge floats being carried just made out of all these turnips lighting it up. And it was like, why don't we have shit like that? Because we're using pumpkins, and I don't know, pumpkins are too heavy, but
we've upgraded to drones.
We have drones now, and AI celebrates for us. So
yeah.
But we also have to think, when I was thinking like this is kind of early for Christmas, that technically Santa Claus doesn't visit on December 24th there. Santa Claus, as he's known, Semiclaus, visits on St. Nick's Day, which is technically December 6th. Christkind visits on December 24th, as December 24th kind of was the Yule holiday that was taken over by Christmas, but Santa Claus was actually on St. Nick's Day, and then like America kind of merged them both onto December 24th. But yeah, some really complexity of how holidays have evolved over time. And what we see here is, my understanding, a mix between Samhain and Christmas, Yule. So basically like a mix between Halloween and what we know as Christmas, into like one holiday where you celebrate the end of harvest, you carve turnips.
It's the nightmare before Christmas.
It's the nightmare before Christmas with kids and turnips. It's terrifying. I love it. And they sing songs. Apparently they have songs about these turnips too. I tried reading one, and it didn't make sense to me, but look it up. It's fun. And then also I noticed that this is known as a holiday for feasting, drinking, bonfires, lanterns. But also, it's not uncommon for kids to go to door and getting gifts of nuts and sweets, much like trick-or-treating. So there's similarities here that I would just love to spend the rest of my life looking into, but I don't know. Maybe I'd like to read a book or two on this to know more, but I thought it was really interesting, and I would love to learn more about how Thanksgiving ended up on the kind of the same day, like the third Thursday of the month, where I read that the third Thursday of the month is also known as like the big parade day in Switzerland or in other countries for this holiday, this festival, and celebrating these lanterns. So maybe that's just coincidence, but it seems like there's probably more there. But yeah, and
that's really interesting. Yeah.
Anybody's listening, look up these lanterns because they make some cool shit out of them, and they're not just like the scary jack-o'-lanterns or silly faces. They go into designs with them.
Yeah, it's like decorative patterns and everything. It's like they really put a lot of time and effort into it.
And I can only imagine like a turnip's denser than a pumpkin. Like pumpkin's mostly just like weeds on the inside. You just got to pull them out.
I know. But you actually have to carve out a lot in a turnip.
It takes days, weeks even.
All the more reason, like, it's so much more impressive.
Mm-hmm. Especially with like little kids with sharp objects.
Oh man.
All right, so that's all I have for that one. But I love that IQ point. I'm glad you looked it up too, because share the fun.
Yeah. Well, Sheldon has the roommate agreement. He says, I call your attention to the friendship rider in Appendix C, Future Commitments, number 37. In the event one friend is ever invited to visit the Large Hadron Collider, now under construction in Switzerland, he shall invite the other friend to accompany him. And this was the other moment where I thought it was kind of like a gotcha moment, because I totally just, for some reason, thought that the dates were wrong, but I was wrong. I was like, wait a minute. If CERN was built on these days and this year's when you met, it wouldn't have made sense. But I don't know what I was thinking.
You tried.
Too
That
too
works.
many dates.
Yep.
I looked it up, and both Sheldon and Leonard were both born in 1980, and the CERN was completed in 2008. And the roommate agreement line that Sheldon mentions that it's currently under construction means that they met somewhere between 1998 and 2008. And I did the math, and it's plausible because they could have met any time in between those years. Because in 2007, I'm going a year before it was actually done because he said it's currently under construction.
Yeah.
In 2007, they would have been both 27, which is around the time that the show started. So, yeah, I guess it makes sense. Sorry, you started saying something. Yeah.
Sure.
I totally was.
I was gonna say that I missed him saying which is currently under construction, and I feel like that makes a lot more sense. But that's what I was gonna say. That I didn't give a point either way, but I would feel guilty if I were Leonard. I feel like that's such a big deal that I would try really hard to find a way for Sheldon to come, or even try to celebrate Valentine's Day on a different day. That's just such a big deal. And like you said before, that Penny's not going to care or appreciate the actual tour. So I would feel really guilty not taking somebody who I had talked about at all. And yeah, I kind of feel like Leonard's being a little bit of a jerk, kind of blowing it off completely.
Yeah, he's disregarding Sheldon's feelings and something that they did technically agree on. But he actually does go into it a little bit more, that he says that that they actually line out what happens if one of them wins a MacArthur grant, or if one of them gets superpowers, or if one of them gets bitten by a zombie. So it's like they did line out a lot of things. So that's why I guess it's kind of hard to take it serious at the same time. It's like the roommate agreement, for all intents and purposes, is a little bit of a joke.
Yeah, that's fair. It just seems this one's so plausible that...
Yeah. Well, one thing that they do say is that there's nothing in the roommate agreement about getting girlfriends, which actually is a goof. Because earlier in the previous season, in season 2, episode 10, the Vardabadian conundrum, he mentions the girlfriend clause, which involves refrigerator space. It was when he was dating Dr. Stephanie.
Yeah.
So there actually is a clause in there about girlfriends.
Do you think they forgot it, or they're just purposely ignoring it?
If I had to guess, I'd say that they're purposely ignoring it.
Fair.
Because they wanted to throw in that joke of like they have all these far-fetched things, and then the idea of one of them getting a girlfriend is just so implausible that they just didn't even mention it.
They had to go for the joke.
Yeah, it was all for the
Sheldon
joke.
and Leonard, not the writers.
Oh. No, Sheldon has an eidetic memory.
That's
he would
true.
never forget something like that. Except we know it's not.
It's not.
Well, Sheldon claims that he's held up his end of the bargain, and it's time for Leonard to reciprocate. And Sheldon gave up Tuvent throat singing, which he then gives an example of. And then Leonard cuts off the conversation and makes his final decision. He's bringing Penny. Then Sheldon leaves, and it is game on for Sheldon. He just starts throat singing. Dang, we are going long on this one. Holy shit.
I've known. Oh, well.
Yeah, we're on scene 3. It just gives more for Jen to binge.
Yeah.
It's just extra content.
We're doing this for you, Jen. Call out.
Well, now we're in the car, and Leonard is trying to break the ice. Sheldon is ignoring him until Leonard suggests a driving game. Sheldon says, "Okay, well, let's play a game called Traitors. I will name 3 historical figures, and you put them in the order of the heinousness of their betrayal: Benedict Arnold, Judas, or Dr. Leonard Hofstadter." And then he dives into round 2, where he says Leonard Hofstadter, Darth Vader, or Rupert Murdoch, who is the owner of Fox, and they canceled Firefly. Hint, he and Darth Vader are tied for number 2. Well, I will say I have a little bit of a gripe on this. I know it's a little bit of semantics, but as a huge Star Wars fan, Darth Vader is not the traitor.
I was going to say...
unless you count that he betrayed Emperor Palpatine, but that means that he's voting for the Empire. He should have, if he wanted to go deep cut into Star Wars, he should have said Anakin.
Right? I was going to say
Anakin Skywalker.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, just wanted to call that out as a huge Star Wars fan.
Because Darth Vader is the persona that he takes on after he betrays everybody.
Yeah.
So...
As Obi-Wan said, from a certain point of view, Darth Vader killed Anakin Skywalker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree with you there. I back that one up.
Well, on to the next scene. We're in the cafeteria, and Howard is with Raj, and he is apologizing for not hanging out since he had a date with Bernadette. And Raj said that he was at home praying to the Hindu god Urvashi that his bowels would loosen and his penis would droop like a willow tree. Not petty at all.
not at all.
And then it got me thinking
too.
Yeah. Urvashi, help me! I pray to thee. Well, it got me wondering, why isn't Howard hooking up Raj with one of Bernadette's friends? I know they didn't have an official agreement like with Leonard, but at the same time, that's just what friends do. So, unless Bernadette doesn't have any friends.
That could be. It seems weird to me, too. I've thought about that.
Yeah. Enter Leonard, and he talks about Sheldon, that Sheldon is still mad at him, and he wants to know what they would do in his position. And Howard says that, you know what, I would take him to Switzerland, and then I would leave him there. And then Sheldon joins the group for a split second as he drops a tray of 30 pieces of silverware. Which I actually had to look up because I did not understand this joke. But it's because I didn't. Well, I'm religious, but not that religious, I guess. Not enough to actually know that story. So I guess I'm not very religious.
How dare you, Rob? Be more religious. I think I was going to say that there's some legends built off of the 30 pieces of silver Judas got to betray Jesus. And if anybody's interested, there's a good show on HBO, I think it is, and it's in Spanish called, I want to say it's called 30 Coins, but it's about each of the coins is cursed and pulls demonic entities and evil towards it. And something about if you collect them all, you can end the world or something. It's been a long time since I watched it. But
I heard great things about that show.
It was, I started watching it. It was one where I started watching it and I got to the end of the end of season 1 and I was waiting for the next season and just kind of forgot about it. But it was, it's terrific. I love it. And I love that concept that the pieces of silver are cursed.
I'll have to check that out.
And get religious. Get some religion in your life, Rob.
I'm working on it. I have to settle into my new house first, and then I'll think about it.
Let your
Big
baby
Bang
turn
Theory
18
is my religion. Yeah. I feel like that's the only time I'm no, actually I wouldn't even be able to breathe then. The thought of him going off to college is already killing me. And he's 19 months old right now. So already Honestly, the thought of dropping him off at daycare is killing me.
Uh,
But but you know what? Nobody cares about my kid. This is a Big Bang Theory
yeah.
podcast, not Robert's kid podcast.
Unless no.
Well, now we're in Leonard's room, and Sheldon is trying to suck up to Leonard now. He made him breakfast. Frodo pancakes with coconut shavings as the hair on the feet, and some butterscotch scones. He says, "What you're tasting is respect and affection." And also a pound of Crisco, which I love. It's a great callback to a previous episode where it was when we met Sheldon's mom, how she made the pie with lard. So you know what? Sheldon learned a thing or two from his mom. Sheldon even says that he'll watch Babylon 5 with the director's commentary. And Leonard's like, "Cool, this is awesome. But you're still not going to Switzerland." And then Sheldon's like, screw it. And he leaves, and then he comes back and he takes the breakfast away.
The Frodo pancakes.
No Frodo for you. I swear, like, Sheldon must be a pretty talented cook. I feel like there have been episodes in the past where he's cooked things or he's done things in the kitchen and everything like that. I feel like he actually like might be.
I mean, between his really mom and whatever he's gained from his mom and like the interest in anything chemistry related, that's the kitchen, right? So
yeah, I as much as people say that, like people say like baking is science and cooking is an art, it really isn't. Like it can be an art, but like you follow the same steps each time. So like you still follow a recipe, you still like sear the chicken breast for X amount of minutes. Like it's still very definitive, like what you need to do. So I could definitely see that Sheldon could just follow those steps and then just execute a great dish.
Yeah.
Well, now we're in the laundry room, and Penny is doing laundry, and Sheldon enters to say hello. And then he immediately drops the friendly banter. He says, "You know why I'm here." And she goes on with the reoccurring joke that he's an alien. And then she suggests that it's better acoustics for his throat singing, which apparently it is. He pulls out his computer to present a PowerPoint to show, and he calls to her to turn out the lights. And I just love that vacant expression, like, no, that's not going to happen.
The whole scene made me laugh. I'm like, I have a presentation. Lights, please.
Yeah.
So like out. I mean, I can see it coming from him, but I didn't expect it, so it made me laugh a lot.
Yeah. Well, now he's giving his very insulting presentation. He shows a highly gifted researcher in the field of particle physics whose work has brought him to the precipice of forever changing mankind's understanding of the universe, aka him. And there we have a waitress brushing her teeth with her finger, aka you. And she's confused because she assumed that he would be sucking up to her. And then he shows a picture of the Large Hadron Collider and a Bath and Body Works. Let's match the person to the proper location.
That made me stop it, and I had to laugh extra hard.
Yeah.
Let's match the person to the appropriate destination.
Yeah. Well, show's over, and he objects because he has 5 more slides. Penny goes on to say that ultimately this is Leonard's decision, not his. And then Sheldon finally concedes and just hopes that she could appreciate CERN as much as him. And this kind of softens up Penny, and she says that she'll talk to Leonard. Then they hug, and he doesn't know how long it should last.
And that's where I get a point like Sheldon, because I am always terrified of hugs. I don't really know what to do with them. Like, am I close enough? Am I not close enough? Do I pat you on the back? Do I like loosely do it? How long has it been? 5 seconds? Is 5 seconds too long? Not long enough? It's all confusing. And then like sometimes like I try to go and they're still holding me. I'm like, oh, that's awkward because I let go first. I'll give you a bigger hug.
We did an IQ point on this before on the perfect hug.
I remember that. Do you remember what we came up with?
I remember it was we talked about duration, and it is kind of vague, but a good hug is supposed to last like what, 5 to 10 seconds, and then there should be some pressure, like you're supposed to like give a squeeze like that, like
But
really
not
is the
too much
marking of a
pressure.
good. No, you're not supposed to kill them.
Oh, then what's the
Bear hugs
point?
are bear hugs are only appropriate if the situation calls for it. Which you'll know. I feel like you'll know.
No, when I have to
At
kill the
least I.
person with a hug.
So the next time we see each other, it's bear hug.
This is it.
We're gonna.
This is how we
We're
die.
we just kill each other. We're literally killing each other with kindness.
Quick, record this. It's for our podcast.
Now we're back at the apartment, and Raj is super optimistic that he could still have a great Valentine's Day. He's going to get a spa at Koreatown and then go to the pet store and get licked by puppies.
That sounded amazing.
Yeah. I like how like Howard just kind of makes like a weird face like, okay. Well, Leonard storms in to speak to Sheldon, and Sheldon is making ho-lair-moose, a traditional Swiss breakfast to prepare his gastrointestinal system. And here we have an IQ point on ho-lair-moose. You want to take this one or me?
All yours. It's food.
All right. I found this on tasteatlas.com and worldfoodwine.com. Cholermus, actually spelled with a CH, not to be confused with Cholermus, which is spelled with an H and a double L, which is elderberry mash. Cholermus with a CH is a Swiss shredded pancake, which is usually consumed for supper, not breakfast. So Sheldon is actually incorrect on this. It has less flour than regular crepes, making it lighter when compared to most other kinds of pancakes. The batter is made with flour, eggs, salt, and either milk, cream, or half and half. Occasionally, some recipes will also call for cottage cheese in the batter. Once the batter has had some time to rest, the pancakes are cooked in butter. When the bottom is nearly cooked, the pancake is shredded, and the pieces are fried until browned. Additionally, the ho-lair-moose is sprinkled with sugar, cinnamon, and typically served with an apple or pear sauce. There is also a savory version, which is made with vegetables, ham, and bacon, also known as Alpine omelet. Though it's more of a pancake than an omelet, is a shredded and fried crepe of sorts. And based on the ingredients, I'm not sure why Sheldon would even need to prep his gastrointestinal system. It seems pretty close to regular pancakes, and all the ingredients it usually gets are generic ingredients that he should always be consuming. But I do appreciate his vigor.
I agree with that.
And that's what I had.
When I looked into it, I'm like, these are all ingredients that we eat on a regular basis, not necessarily in this order or amount. Like pancake is eggs, flour, and dairy, but this is just kind of mixing the proportions. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just his excitement is getting the best of him.
He just wanted to enjoy the pleasure a little bit longer.
Yeah. Super. So I feel like when you come and visit, not only do we need to make a brisket, we should definitely try to make a ho-lair-moose.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds really good. I mean, taking like a crepe and then you're basically just like refrying it so it gets crispy.
Refried crepes. How could it
well,
be
did
bad?
I miss any? I know it can't be. Well, did I miss anything on ho-lair-moose?
That's what I got. Yeah, I the website I was looking at from justapinch.com suggested mixing the batter in a food processor to help incorporate the air and kind of froth it up a little bit because it's supposed to be kind of airy. Or I guess you just whip it really hard. Whip it good. Into shape. Cholermus.
Whip it good. Well, Leonard is mad at Sheldon for guilt tripping Penny. Sheldon asks Howard to hit the lights to present his PowerPoint.
I have a presentation.
Howard, lights. Well, Leonard calls the end of the discussion. Penny is going, not him. And to Sheldon, that means friendship over. And that means if he ever gets invited to Bill Gates' home to go swimming, he's not invited. And I love Howard's response. He's just, ooh, that's gotta sting.
Which I don't get, because is Bill Gates known for a good swimming pool? Like, I'd never heard of that. But they seem to care.
I have not heard that either, but I would imagine he has a great mansion with multiple swimming pools, just because he can.
That's what I like to think, at least.
Yeah. Well, now we're at Penny's room, and Penny and Leonard are in bed. And Penny says that she's got some special undies. And then she starts sneezing. Uh-oh. Time passes, and we hear Penny in the bathroom. And it sounds like she has the plague.
Oh, step back. I have a point for being like Leonard. Because it starts off, and she says, oh, it's allergies. And he goes, would you like a pill? And he apparently has all of the pills. Leonard has all of the pills for allergies. And she goes, do any of them work? And he says, not really, but he's an optimist. And what really solidifies
he's an enthusiast.
Enthusiast. I like to try new pills just to see if they work. And for allergies, the best one that's ever worked for me is Flonase. And it's never been ever even close to 100%, but it has helped a little bit with allergies. But I was at the zoo a couple of weeks ago. Did I tell you about going to the zoo? Maybe like 2 months ago at this point. I went to the zoo, and some friends of mine have a baby, and they were taking their baby, I don't know, he's walking toddler now, to the zoo for the first time, so we all kind of went with. And I brought my side pack, and it became clear I brought my side pack because I put my pills in it. And somebody's like, oh, I have a headache. I'm like, what would you like? Some Motrin, some Advil, some Tylenol. And my friend called me a walking pharmacy. So But hey, that's my dad bag. I am ready for, I got the Pepto, I got the Modium, I got the Advil, I got the, whatever you need.
Little bottles of booze too.
Little bottles of booze. I was thinking about bringing that, but I couldn't find my flask that day. Right?
I remember it was like my mid-20s. My friends and I, my coworkers, I remember we ended our shift early because it was such a slow day at the restaurant that we're like, well, it's Sunday. It's like super early. What do you guys want to do? And people were like, oh, let's go to the zoo. So we had some coffee cups because like the restaurant had coffee cups and everything. We just packed those, and we bought some bottles of wine, and we just poured it inside the coffee cups to make it look like we were drinking coffee, but we had wine.
Nice.
It was a very fun experience.
Would you say it was zoorific?
Oh. It was
it was okay.
It was Zunderful.
Zunderful.
Well, now some time passes, and we can hear Penny in the bathroom, and it sounds like she has the plague. He wants to know if she'll feel better by the morning, and she says, yeah, I will, because I'll be dead.
That made me laugh really hard.
So we jump over to outside of Sheldon's room, and Leonard tells him, like, hey, Penny's sick. If you still want to go, you can come. And then you hear some throwing up in the bathroom, and then Sheldon comes out looking terrible, and he says, great, I'll go pack in a minute. And then he just rushes back to the bathroom. Well, now we time shift and we're at the apartment, and Penny and Sheldon are sick together, and she is giving him some soup. They both look awful, and Sheldon goes through his normal routine, questioning the food, and Penny just instantly just goes into snark and just says, "How about I pour it in your lap and you can tell me if it's 185 degrees?" And he gets defensive and says, "Don't be mean, I'm sick." And then Penny says, "Well, I'm sick too." And Sheldon, just being the giant a-hole, says, "Huh, not my problem." And then he kind of reflects on how this possibly happened and then clicks in. It was the hug.
The hug.
Penny got him sick.
I love that twist. I don't know if the time works out for him to get the flu from a hug from her like that next night. It usually takes 48, 72 hours for the flu to incubate. I don't even care. I love the premise of it so much.
Yeah.
It made me laugh. It was the hug.
And I just love Penny's deadpan, "Happy Valentine's Day." Very vindictive at the same time.
Right.
Well, now we're at the ending, and we're at the Swiss hotel room. And the room is all decked out with romantic things: champagne, roses, little chocolates. And Leonard brought Raj. And I love this ending. It's so fitting.
It was
and
made a good episode almost perfect.
Yeah. And I just love that Raj got what he deserved. He got something good because he deserved it.
When Leonard goes, "Oh, I forgot all this stuff," and Raj goes, "I never will.
I never will." Just jumps onto the bed.
I never will.
And that's the episode.
And I
Great
stand by
episode.
that. They would never in a million years, unless there's something I don't know or understand, because I've tried to change ticket names, and in the blink of a moment, you can't switch a ticket from somebody post 9/11. You can't switch from Penny's name to Sheldon, or Sheldon to Raj, or Penny to Raj. It would not work. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Little details that we don't need to worry about. Well, now we have the vanity card.
This is a long motherfucker. I saw that. I was like, wow.
God.
Man, Rob's got this episode.
Fuck you, Chuck Lorre. All right, let's
all right.
Let's take a deep breath, have a sip of my soda water. All right. Chuck Lorre Productions number 277. Belarus is a small, landlocked country next door to Russia, Ukraine, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland. According to Wikipedia, one of its major exports is cattle byproducts, which begs the question, what horrible shape are the cattle in if all they're good for is felt hats and paper paste, or wallpaper paste? But Belarus does have a bustling TV production industry. One of their most recent hits is a sitcom about four nerdy scientists who live next door to a beautiful blonde waitress. The characters are named Sheldon, Leo, Hovard, Raj, and Natasha. And the show is entitled The Theorists. Each episode begins with a rapid-fire montage of images which takes us from the dawn of time to the present moment. Keeping with that theme, the montage is scored with what is probably the worst piece of recorded pop music since the dawn of time. And finally, each episode appears to be a Russian translation of a Big Bang Theory episode. When we brought this to the attention of Warner Brothers' legal department, we were told that it's next to the impossible to sue for copyright infringement in Belarus because the TV production company that is ripping us off is owned and operated by the government of Belarus. Belarus? Have I been saying that wrong? It just clicked in. It's Belarus. Oh my god.
I'm not judging. Everything else I've said in this episode has been mispronounced. So.
Yeah. Having no other recourse, I'm hoping this vanity card will be read by the fine folks making the theorists, and racked with guilt, they break down and send us some felt hats. The Kyrgyzstan version of Dharma and Greg already sent me some wallpaper paste. I think I heard of this. I remember. Yeah, it was a total ripoff.
I've heard of other shows getting totally ripped off like this, but I've not heard of this one specifically. So I'm not surprised. But
I wonder if we could try to find an episode. The Theorists.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm gonna mark that down for our recap episode, our season 3 recap episode. Let's try to find an episode of the Theorists and break it down.
We could do like a watch along with it. Like, what the fuck are we watching?
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the episode. Let's count some points up.
I think I got 2 and 2 this time. I thought I had more on one side, but 88 points, not like Sheldon. 93 like Sheldon. So it's just gone up 2 on both sides.
We got 7 IQ points.
That was a good number.
Yeah. This was a great episode. Really interesting IQ points. Really just entertaining. A lot of foodcast stuff. So, Jen, are you going to have Cholermus?
Yeah.
Are you going to get yourself a turnip? Let us know. Send us some pics. All right. Any last minute things?
I think that's all for me. I loved it.
All right. Well, thanks again for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. And we'll see you next time when we talk Season 3, Episode 16, The Excelsior Acquisition. Bye.
See ya.
This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Alex Grohl. Thanks for listening. And now I'm more fertile.
Yes.